Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, April 28th. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sternbach?
Here. Dr. Graff?
Here.
Megan Sparks?
Here.
Dr. Rohr?
Here. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda as presented? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sternbach? Yes. Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next is honors.
All right, so again, good evening, everyone. It's always a nice night. We get a chance to recognize a lot of students in the audience for some of their awards and some of the work they have done throughout the year. Tonight, we're going to start with our regional spelling bee contest, our spelling bee winners. We had 3 students represent the district at the 2025 Wright State University Regional Spelling Bee Contest. I'd like to introduce some of those contestants and have them come up to the podium. First of all, the representatives of the Regional Spelling Bee were Yusha Faraku, an 8th grade student from Magzig Middle School. Yusha, are you here tonight? I'd also like to introduce Abdullah Noor, who is a 7th grader at Tower Heights. So, Abdullah, are you? So I do know the winner is here tonight. It's exciting to introduce Aurora Spizak, 8th grade Watts. And so I want to really take some time to share a little bit about this award. She won the Regional Spelling Bee for the 2nd straight year and will compete in the 100th Annual Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. in May. Aurora won after 33 rounds. I probably would have been out after round 1. She won on the word called brooch that I had to look up and get on YouTube to make sure I had the correct spelling and pronunciation, which might be brooch. Anyhow, it's a prehistoric circular stone tower found in Scotland. So at this time, I would like for Aurora to please come to the podium. And now I'd like to get started with our Destination Imagination process and ask for, looks like Michelle and Harry Rockside, both are going to come up to the podium and start calling out names for the award.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Oxrider, and along with my husband, Harry, we're the district coordinators for Destination Imagination here in Centerville. For over 40 years, we've had a creative problem-solving program here in Centerville, thanks to the very incredible support from our school board and the community. On behalf of Centerville DI, we would like to thank Mr. Wesney, Dr. Rohr, the rest of the school board, Michelle Antrim, and Sarah Swan. We are going to miss you so much. And of course, our building principals and volunteer building coordinators. This year, Centerville DI had 28 teams across all schools from K to 12, led by dedicated volunteer team managers. Their time, energy, and passion made this journey possible, so let's give the team managers a round of applause. Tonight, we're proud to recognize 16 teams who advanced to the Ohio tournament. At the end of May, 10 of these teams will travel to Kansas City to represent Centerville, making up an impressive 28% of the whole Ohio contingent. In a historic first, also, our special needs team will compete at Globals, which is a powerful testament to Centerville's commitment to STEAM-based extracurricular programs. Thank you very much. And also with their propensity to include students with higher special needs in those programs.
So again, my name's Harry Oxrider. I'm going to announce the teams. So the team managers, you can bring your team around the podium, up front, come up here. We have certificates for the teams, and then if you pose right here, we'll have a picture of your team. I know we've got a lot of teams, so we're going to move you through fairly quickly. Everybody understand the process? You guys are good? Okay. So as we recognize each team, please hold your applause until the full team has been announced. I'll also mention if the team has earned any Global Finals invitation or any special awards. So, starting with service learning. In this challenge, teams addressed a real need in the community and presented a story that included a character who must make a critical choice as well as make a device that complete 2 tasks at the same time. So the first team we're announcing tonight is the Big Peeps, managed by John and Megan Sparks. They worked on gathering supplies for those affected by natural disasters at the Matthew 25 Ministries. They'll be attending Global Finals for the first time. So I have Kaylor Fanke, Patrick O'Brien, Otto Steger, Zach Sparks, Alexander Holacek, and Yusuf Shah. So you guys can come over here and we'll get a picture. Okay, next up, I have the Secret Service. They're managed by Julie and Mike Grunenwald. They collected $650 for Save the Children. The team received a top instant challenge trophy at state and qualified to compete at Global Finals. I have Parker Balo, Glenn Foster, Charlie Grunenwald, David Grunenwald, Logan Johnson, and Camden Largent. On to the improvisational challenge. Teams had to present a story about a character's journey between 2 locations and encountering a detour along the way. The Pink Powder Puff Girls, managed by Anita Pennington and Shalaya Thiragarajan, will compete at Global Finals for the first time. I have Alicia Bothra, Selena Giffen, Michaela Mulero, Evelyn Pennington, and Sanjana Raghu. Okay, next up, I have the Fire Peeps, managed by John and Megan Sparks. They will also be competing at Global Finals for the first time. I have Sai Babu, Brooks Bowman, Advitha Kaliga, Aria Potok, Naomi Sparks, and Elijah Sparks. On the technical challenge, the teams built and destroyed a stack of items while telling a story about overcoming frustrations. So the first team we have is the best team name is On a Roll, managed by Matt and Crystal Reeker. I have Caleb Bates, Wesley Calloway, Arayan Shuhal, Logan DeChain, Noah Edge, Auric Raman Dasgupta, and River Reeker. What? They're not there. Okay. Next up, I have the Surplus of Super Saucy Scientists, managed by Jimmy Moore and Bonnie Lindner. They received a top instant challenge trophy at state, and they will be competing at global finals. I have Bruno Greco, Marin Hubbard, Isaac Lindner, Jacob Moore, Elena Watring, and Eric Watring. Next up, I have the Revengeful Mushrooms, managed by Ken and Barb Prail. They received a top instant challenge trophy at state, and they will be competing at global finals. I have Brooklyn Asher, Christopher Garcia, Shaila Parhar, Justin Prail, Grant Stoltz, Dharmendra Varma, and Scarlett Wyman. Scoot on down. Now we're going to move on to the engineering challenge. What? In the engineering challenge, teams tested a transporter on a high wire while presenting a circus-style story with daring displays. I have the Council of DI Children, managed by Laura Lee and Ron Hansen. I have Jonathan Burt, Christian Brill, Arjun Donge, Ricky Hansen, and Kavish Rawal. Next up on engineering, I have Even More East of the Equator, managed by David Stoltz and Marlena Prail. They will be competing at global finals. I have Andrew Beach, Aisha Patel, Vivian Prail, Gia Raul, Vartika Sahu, Corin Stoltz, and Akesh Thiruvedi. Okay, now I have on the engineering, Can You Hear Me Now? Oh, sorry, Can You Gear Me Now? Managed by Deb Nelson and Tabitha Combs. I have Montana Combs, Jared Nelson, Keegan Parmenter, Alexander Stevens, and Joaquin Watson. Moving on to the scientific challenge. So teams explored the cosmos and told a story about discovering life on another planet, complete with sci-fi technobabble. So the first scientific team we have is Cosmic Hot Dog Water, managed by Hassan Issa and Nicole Knobloch Moffat. They will be completing at global finals. I have Whale Issa, Landon Knobloch, Chris Morant, Quinn Gasper, Rainer Barron, and Isabel Kaplinger. The next team is Sesquipedalian Loquaciousness. They were managed by Harry Oxrider and Michelle Oxrider. They earned a Da Vinci Award at regionals for their self-constructed opaque projector, and they'll be competing for the first time at global finals. I have, yeah, you go around that way. I have John V. Avala, Chloe Butler, Advika Narahari, Akshira Sita, Rashawn Sett, Bernard Sherman, and Anwita Taluga. What? Okay. Okay, the last team to be announced tonight is in Scientific Challenge. It is the Mask Redacted, managed by Harry Oxrider and Michelle Oxrider. They will also be competing at global finals. So I have David Esquera, Ananya Karmaraj, and Gabrielle Roseberry. And Mrs. O has some things to say. Oh, come on over.
Okay, so before we introduce the last three final members of our high school team, there are seniors who are trying to run away. These three young men are completing their 11th year in the DI program. And so, and they have actually chosen to forego graduation in order to compete at global finals for their last time. So they will actually graduate in a ceremony at globals. So, but Pardeep Mandava, he's going to study engineering at The Ohio State University. Gabrielle Reeker will study theater at Sinclair Community College and Wright State University. And Ryan Oxrider will study accounting at the University of Cincinnati. So, Run. I hope you'll join me in a final round of applause for all of these extraordinary children.
So, again, from the board perspective, I want to thank you, congratulate you. Good luck for those who are going to global. One last thing just to add to yours, the special needs team that's going, that is formed in here, is the first special needs team competing and the first team ever going to participate in globals. So kudos to them and good luck to everyone. Thank you all. So next, why don't we take a minute if you guys can head out. So give us 1 minute. I know they're not real anxious to stay for the whole meeting. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with the meeting. We're going to make one adjustment that's on the agenda here. We're going to have the presentation of the after-school programming now prior to the hearing of the public. Mr. Wesney.
All right, so good evening, everyone. I still hear the metals clanging in my ears, so I'm trying to adjust a little bit. So it's always good to hear and see some of the awards and see some of our students getting recognized. So tonight on the agenda, I had shared or planned to share some information about some after-school programming. We've been talking about this with the board and the district. Yes. And so we've had some conversations. Really, this is a little bit of a follow-up to my conversation last week at the work session, where I spent a lot of time talking about some of the benefits and looking at some changes with our after-school program. I always feel like it's important to share, and I continue to do this, and a lot of the work that I do is our mission is to empower and challenge and support every learner to grow every day. And that's really what I think about when I start making some hard, difficult decisions. I think about our mission. And more importantly tonight, I think about our focus areas in resourcing and supporting and providing support structures necessary to sustain and maximize growth. And so you've heard me introduce a lot of presentations by falling back on our mission statement, and I think it's important that we keep that in mind. So again, looking at our after-school programming, here's a little bit of a timeline. We've looked at considering a partnership or a collaboration with the YMCA with our Voyager program. Some of this conversation started back in the fall during our levy campaign. You'll remember I sat right here at this podium and talked about the Voyager program as being a reduction potential cost savings for the district. There were a lot of different parts of that conversation that would potentially save money for the district. And part of that had a lot to do with being able to close the building sooner, maybe get custodians out sooner, and it would have been a savings on utilities and that type of programming for the Voyager program. Obviously, I've shared this multiple times. I am a parent of a Voyager. Both of my kids went to the Voyager program. I see the value. I understand the value of the program, and I know the importance of what that is like for our families and for our students. And so part of that was looking at our costs associated with payroll, the work that goes into that, workers' compensation, liability insurance, and so forth. I had an initial meeting with the YMCA back in November. It was an introductory meeting. Laura Sauber and I attended that, really just to get some of the information and details about the benefits of what could be provided by going with the YMCA. And so in looking at that, it's just like any other initial introductory meeting we might have with a vendor. That was with Laura and I, and not necessarily with the entire staff. And we look at making some changes and looking at different programming across the district. As you can imagine, it's impossible to bring everybody together to be part of a certain conversation or decision, and yet no decisions were decided at that time in regards to the after-school programming and going with the YMCA. Once I received the information, I felt like it was important to reach out to a lot of districts in Montgomery County. I spent a lot of time talking to some of the superintendents in Montgomery County, 6 total superintendents I had conversations with. That included Fairmont, Northmont, Huber Heights, Mad River, who's just starting their program going into next year, and Miamisburg, or some of the districts that I talked to. Last week, we had 2 members of the YMCA here. They talked about how they are serving 16 districts in our region, Southwest Ohio. So this isn't a new program as far as the YMCA working with after-school programs in school districts. And so I wanted to make sure that that was part of the conversation and people understand this isn't necessarily a new program. Some of the benefits of going with the Y is one of the things that I shared at the work session, and we wouldn't be here tonight if there wasn't an opportunity to make sure our current staff had the opportunity to continue on from the Voyager program into the Y. And all along, I've never looked at this as an opportunity to actually close the Voyager program. As I said, there's been a lot of value in having that program. The whole intent was looking at some of the benefits that are provided by the YMCA, looking at some of the enhancements that that program can get, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and join both of those programs together and to continue to have and offer programming in all of our K-5 schools in our district. And so that's our 8 elementaries, the PVs, and the 6 elementary buildings. I also talked a little bit about the reductions or the reduces the work and responsibilities of the district treasurer's office. Obviously, from a payroll, not just the treasurer's office, but you start thinking about liability insurance, workers' compensation, some of our overhead costs. There's a savings. We've looked at some of that information today and how it's hard for us to come up with an exact dollar amount because we don't necessarily track the hours worked on a certain subject or a topic. And so I can talk a little bit more about that towards the end. The other thing that we found, or I found as being a very attractive opportunity to go with the YMCA, is that they do offer public funds and they can offer scholarships. And that's something that we don't have access to right now. Occasionally we will have students who are in the Voyager program or families are in need of additional dollars and support. The YMCA can provide that as part of their public funding. And again, as another benefit in using the Y as a partner or collaborating with the Y for our after-school programs. We also looked at opportunity to expand our current programming. We had the Y here at our work session last week. They were very clear that they wanted to keep our current programs in place and what we do day in and day out and how we're serving our children in our after-school program. They also, and we talked about looking at exploring a morning program for our families. We occasionally will receive questions from parents or community members. Have you ever considered a morning program? Really had never thought about that until now, and talking with the YMCA and realizing that could be an option for us. And I can tell you on a lot of the mornings where we have to make decisions on either snow delays or cancellations, I receive a lot of phone calls about, childcare in the morning. So the YMCA would provide that opportunity to look at Calamity Day opportunities and also looking at emergency care. So just to explain emergency care a little bit, when our youngest students travel home and they're on a bus, there's an expectation that somebody's home and is there that can get them off the bus. Occasionally, it doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally we have to bring a student back to school who then usually has to sit in an office or sit with the principal until a parent can be contacted. Through this program with the Y, we'd have that opportunity to allow the student to participate in the Y program on that day. Some additional building support we felt like was necessary. This is probably one of the biggest components that we studied. As I think a lot of people in the audience are aware and know that we went through a tough time with the levy. And the levy, we had to look at a reduction plan. We had a couple reduction plans going into this school year. We reduced our staff by 48 staff. A lot of that was support staff in our offices that helped with a variety of things during lunch, recess, or whatever those activities might be. We've had some requests to bring some of those positions back. And I've said all along there are some positions that we're going to have to look at and maybe bring back. But we're doing our best to try to hold the line on some of the cuts that we made back in the fall going into this school year. So one of the benefits that the Y is willing to provide is having some extra staff in our buildings, be 2 hours a day in all 8 of our buildings. And it's actually a benefit. So if we would actually go out and hire somebody to be in those positions, it would cost us about $60,000 out of the general fund. But the Y is willing to provide that at no additional cost or no cost to the district. And again, I believe it is a great service. One of the other things that I talked about last week was looking at programming for 7th and 8th grade students. Believe it or not, I still get some questions about, what are some options maybe in the summer. The Y would provide a free summer membership for our students in the 7th and 8th grades, which would be an opportunity for some of our families when school's out in the summer. Snack purchasing, I also talked about, would be through our student nutrition services, and providing, because of the resources that the Y brings, that would be a free opportunity for our students and for our parents. So this slide is just really the only new information. And I've shared this slide with our Voyager staff, and I've also shared this with our Voyager directors. This is really just a summary of some of the benefits that I've talked about. You can see in the first column the partnership agreement and the different things that we looked at in the agreement. And then on the far right-hand side are the actual options. We chose to look at the full partnership with the Y. Some of these things I'm just going to kind of repeat. Is staff provided at midday. So we've already talked about there would be somebody in our buildings 2 days a week, every day. That's in all 8 buildings. And again, that would be about a $60,000 benefit back to the district. The Y has been very clear that they are interested in hiring our district staff back and have interest in keeping the programming in place. The fee structure is an hourly rate versus a flat rate, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. Talked a little bit about AM and PM care would be on site. I know there's been a lot of communication via social media or some information that's been out that's been inaccurate, stating that we've had plans to move the program off site. That has never been a part of our conversation. Our plan is to keep all the programs here in our buildings. Talked a lot about emergency care and calamity care. One of the things that I haven't really shared, and it is in the contract, that this is also an opportunity for our teachers and our district staff, not just the teachers, but anybody who's employed with the district would have up to 10 hours of free time with the YMCA at those after-school programs. And so whether it's morning or after school, it's up to 10 hours a week for our staff. Snack purchasing I talked about. Summer programming would be an option in the future. With the timing of this decision being in April, it really isn't time to get a summer program started in some of their summer camps, but we would like to explore that in the future. And then the last thing, last 2 things I've already talked about, summer memberships at the Y for 7th and 8th grade, and then Camp Kern is an option as a partner later on as a discount for the district. So as a fee comparison, this is just some of the information that's been pulled off our website. It's really the enrollment by the month of the Voyager program. Fee varies by number of days per month. Right now, the total for the year is $3,168 for our families who are with the Voyager program. The YMCA or the Y is a little bit different. It's 8 hours or $8 an hour or up to $80 a week. That total is $3,040 for a family who want to participate in the Y program. So to wrap up, I know there's probably going to be some questions, but I want to spend some time just to talk about some of the questions that I've received and make sure that I try to clarify some of the decisions or some of the things that are out there. I know a lot of people feel like the decision is rushed. I feel like this is just an opportunity. When you look at the benefits that I shared with you up on the screen tonight, those benefits by far outweigh what we're currently providing our families. I've sent a lot of emails. I've tried to answer a lot of questions over the last several days. I can tell you in those conversations, those emails, my decision to bring this to the board has not wavered. I think this is an opportunity. I see this as an opportunity to not only for our families, most importantly our students, but an opportunity for our district moving forward and a way to also save overhead costs for a program that we have. And also have the opportunity to provide a great opportunity and experience for some of our students and really for our families as we move forward. One of the things just to highlight, we did put out frequently asked questions, and we have some more information. If the board decides to vote on this tonight, we'll go out over tomorrow, planning to go out tomorrow, which will be some frequently asked questions. That we've tried to answer some of those questions with some of the emails and questions I received for the community over the last couple of days. So again, I think just to maybe wrap up a little bit on my side is to go back and maybe look at some of the benefits. We talked about the additional staff. The additional staff was something that was very important to not only to me, but the central office team as we rolled this out, to be able to have additional teachers or support for our teachers and for our offices during the day, during lunch and recess. We've tied a value to that and how much that would be in cost. We think that is really significant as we move forward. And then the one thing that I just want to make sure that I share is that it is also a benefit for our staff who send kids to the Y program after school. There would be, that reduction I mentioned earlier. So with that being said, I will turn this over to the board. But again, I appreciate the board giving me the opportunity to do some research on this, to look at different opportunities, to look at different districts across Montgomery County. I happen to be at the Montgomery County ESC today. Chad Wynn, who is the superintendent at Mad River Local Schools, I had a chance to talk to him. I said, I know you're moving forward with the Y program in your district. How's it going? And he had nothing but positive things to say about the people that we've been working with from the Y and what they're trying to do to get the program set up with Mad River. And so again, if I didn't think this was an opportunity to be able to provide good quality programming for our students and families, I wouldn't have brought this to the board this evening. So with that being said, I'm happy to take your questions. No, the Y said it very clearly at our work session last week. They want to come in. They've had a chance to come in to visit some of our programs. They want to provide the same curriculum, same program that we currently have. They also want to try to partner with our teachers and with our curriculum department to look at maybe initiatives that are trying to be accomplished in the district. And they're willing to take on some of those different types of programs that we're trying to make sure that are established during the school day, in the classroom, and they want to find a way to help foster that as we move forward. Yes, and again, that's one of the things that the YMCA has been very clear about. They want to provide an opportunity to give our staff, our current staff, that chance and that opportunity. Obviously, we're going to have some turnover in staff, just like we do in a normal school year. We'll have some Voyager folks that are going to retire and probably move on. It's my understanding we have some others that are going to move on because of things change, life changes. Not any different than what we talked with Mr. Tarpey about last week, and looking at our staffing needs and our staffing projections moving into next year. So there would be some turnover, but there is a willingness on the Y to come in and make sure that we hire our staff at the rate of pay they are now, at the very minimum the same rate of what they're getting paid now. As soon as we move forward, if the board decides to agree to this partnership, I know there's plans this week. I don't have the exact dates. I think as early as Thursday to start rolling out some information to our parents and to the Voyager staff to make sure that they have that information. We waited until there was an agreement in place, so that I think it kind of makes sense to make sure there's a contract or agreement in place before some of that stuff is finalized. But it could be as early as this week, depending on the outcome of tonight. If the Voyager staff wants to continue on working for the district through the YMCA. Sure, absolutely, and I think it's a great question. It's an important question. Obviously, we want to make sure we have the right people in our buildings working with our kids. That is something that we strive and work hard on a regular basis, whether it's through an FBI or BCI background check. We are required to provide those services for either vendors or contractors who come into our buildings. So that process would be in place. One way to answer the question, Dr. Warrior, is to really think about the districts that the Y is already in. They've already kind of paved the path for us in the districts that they're currently working in. So they're familiar what districts have to do, what the requirements are. They would have a procedure and a process to make sure that all their employees are background checked, and we'd have access to that information and make sure that that is in place.
I have questions.
Okay. We can go down the line. Okay.
I guess one of the concerns that's been voiced now to the board and from multiple people is regarding what they have experienced either as families or in visiting some of these other sites, regarding what they view as a quality of a program that is not to the caliber of Voyager. I know you kind of made the comment that the benefits outweigh what we currently provide via Voyager, and I think my hope is that that was meant in terms of where the offerings are in terms of mourning and calamity care and some of those additions, because I think our current Voyager program is exceptional. I think I was a Voyager parent. I think it's incredibly worthwhile for our parents. But I guess that's one of the concerns that's jumped out to me that we've heard that that does give me an awful lot of pause, is that if people are going to view or visit these programs and have concerns about their quality, how do you assuage that concern?
I think it's a good question. I think there's a couple parts to that question. I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm not here to say anything negative about our Voyager program. Our Voyager program has done a fantastic job over time. They've been part of the district for a long time. As I mentioned, it's been several years ago now where my students, or my kids who are adults now, were part of the Voyager program. I valued that. As a staff. As a staff member, I would like to have been able to take advantage, though, of the benefits that the Y is also providing in that discount back to our staff. Our goal is to make sure that there's a quality program that's being delivered for our students, and that will continue to be our goal. I understand that it might be, a different vendor from the outside coming in. That doesn't mean that we can't come in and evaluate like we do any vendor or any contract that we have for a variety of things that we might be working with. I go back and put my old hat on as a business manager when we would do maybe a paving bid. There are plenty of times where we've had to meet the contractors on site and say, hey, you got to do this over, it's got to get fixed. And so I don't know that anybody has any issues, from this administrative team to have those hard conversations if we have to. All along, I see this as an opportunity of blending a very good Voyager program with the Y and adding some of the resources that the Y provides. I mentioned earlier that the resources mean some of the public funding.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big asset that we can bring to this group, where we've sometimes have had to find ways to pay for families in the Voyager program to make sure that they had the opportunity to attend that after-school program. And so again, I think it's an opportunity to save additional dollars for the district. And that is something that we get challenged on a lot, is what else can we do besides cutting staff?
Sure.
And I see that as a long-term opportunity for the district. And I don't want to sacrifice quality. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to take what we currently have and make it even better.
I think that's my other question then goes a little bit more to the timing. I think that when you're on a parent side of this or even the staff side and you feel like you've got a program that's really operating well, that people are very happy with, they've got lots of signups already for next year. They feel like I think there's also some pride, right, in that it's a district program that's been around for a long time and has done well. I think that I would agree with you. I don't want to see the quality suffer at all. The other question, though, that comes up, and I know you addressed your timeline in terms of starting, what happened in September and November and when this has been discussed. And I know that your team has vetted this very thoroughly. And I think that what I've found very interesting about some of the comments from people that have reached out to all of us is I haven't heard people say, please don't do this, we don't like it. What I think we've heard is, gosh, we can see some opportunity here and we think this is really interesting. We just feel like it's kind of taken us by surprise. And so for those families who maybe just heard about this on the 16th of April, we're just, not even 2 weeks after that, I can see where some of that worry is coming, that this is happening very quickly. Do you have information for us about why you feel like the vote has to happen now to move on? What happens if it gets delayed? Are there?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. First of all, I'll take complete ownership on the timeline. One of the things that we looked at, I felt like it was important once we got some of the benefits and some of the information. As I've shared with you, I felt like it was important that we had the administrative team on board. And that was my first step. I met with our central office team to make sure they were on board. I think when we looked at it as a group, going back to that decision though, if I would force this in and make this happen and didn't have the support of the administrators or the elementary principals, that becomes an issue. And so I think it took some time to have those conversations with our staff to make sure the administration was interested and make sure that they knew and understand, the benefits and what could potentially happen with this changeover. So the process did take some time. It took some time from that standpoint and getting to all the elementary principals. I can tell you I've had a conversation with every elementary principal individually. And all the principals see this as a potential opportunity. We get a chance to bring additional staff into the building to help supervise, another set of eyes and ears. Of course, that got their attention. So I think that is a part of it, and I agree that quality is something that we want to continue to look at and make sure. From a timing standpoint, I know it feels like it might be rushed, but we've made it clear that whatever fees have been paid would be reimbursed back to the families to count towards their YMCA bill, or if they decide not to participate in our after-school program, then we get a check back from the district of what they've already paid. I guess part of the other question is, now is usually the time of year we start looking at changes, for next year, and I think that's one of the things we wanted to make sure that we had this in place in April. I know there's been some questions out there about delaying this. And I will tell you, I have some concerns about delaying it. You delay it, it just creates more potential problems, I think, for us. One, our communications person will not be here in 2 weeks. And so if we delay it 2 weeks or longer, I will be honest with you that that is a concern of mine. And I think that's kind of plays into a little bit of the timing and the work that we're trying to do as a district, from personnel to looking at programming and trying to make changes like this for the district. I feel like I'm in a very, very good spot. Personally, there's been a lot of work that's taken place. I feel like I've shared a lot of information with the board. I've kind of, put this on the agenda for an approval. And, if it's something that changes, I'm not really worried about the outcome because I think we have a program in place. But I do believe, and I still stand by my recommendation, that this is a great opportunity for us moving forward as a district.
My first question is about the vetting of the employees. I know you said a lot of our employees will be rehired, but the ones that aren't, could they potentially go through the Raptor program?
So the Raptor program, it could. I don't know if it's something we want to do every day. The Raptor program is only going to really spot those individuals who already have a record, or it is probably a past record, and so that would already be in place. The FBI, BCI background check is going to give you more up-to-date, accurate information. But if that's something that I think puts people at ease, we could do that. That's something I'd probably have to work with the business office in doing. Again, I don't know if that's something we'd have to do every single day because the Raptor program is a little bit different than the FBI and BCI background. We'd also get alerts when things come through. Automatically, those alerts go to Mr. Tarpey and myself when there's a situation where somebody's violated something and it comes up in a report back to us, and so we have that information immediately.
Okay. And then another question was when the program starts to have turnover, it does, every program does, will the Centerville City School employees could they be hired, have somewhere like the upper leg on outsiders? Preference, I guess, would be the word.
That's a good question. It's something that we really haven't talked with Y, but I'm all for trying to promote. Obviously, folks from inside in our community, I think has a lot to do with the position and what the Y is looking for. I think it just depends on that and the number of hours associated with that position. But I think that's something that we can have conversations with Y to make sure that, our community members or our parents or who want to work for a program like this would have that opportunity.
There's also concern about teenagers running the program.
So I've heard that question a lot, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think I see that as an opportunity a little bit. I don't foresee a teenager or, I say teenager, an 18, 19-year-old student actually managing the Y program. But if you think about it in terms of our early childhood education program and what we have here in the district, we have a lot of students in that program. Mayor Matthews does a great job in running that program. There's a lot of interest. I think we need to take advantage of that. We need to take advantage of the fact we have students in our district who want to work with young children and give them an opportunity to work with an adult, work with a teacher who can train them and help them. As you know, Mr. Tarpey's done a great job talking about the shortage of teachers in the state right now. We have to find ways to promote our students who want to be teachers or want to work in an early childhood or an after-school type program with children. And again, I think we have an opportunity to do that and expand upon that here in the district.
Okay, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, our directors are going to be hired on, our current directors are going to be hired on by the Y. So wouldn't they be able to help the quality stay at the level that it is now? How much input are they going to have? How much of their voice will be heard?
You're correct. In the first part of your statement, they're going to have an opportunity to come in and work with the Y, just like we talked about earlier tonight. And being in that position, I can only think that they're going to have a voice with that partnership. That was something that would have to be a specific question for the Y. But they've been very clear that they want to bring our people in and give them the opportunity to work in these positions.
Okay, and then my last question is, this contract is only a year, so if we're not happy, we could always change direction, correct?
The Y is going to maybe want to see something more than just a year, but we'll have an opportunity to evaluate where we are after a year, and there's language in the contract that we can actually break the contract if needed. That language usually gives both parties so many days to communicate with each other and share their concerns and to be able to break that contract as we move forward. But typically, the Y is probably going to look at somewhere around a 5-year contract with us to get started.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Rohr, members of the school board, Superintendent Wesney, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Hughes. I am a member of the district. I'm the post commander of the local Veterans of Foreign Wars here in Centerville, Post 9550. I could tell you a little bit about what we do, but first and foremost, I want to say thank you to the board and to the superintendent and to all the members of the faculty and staff at our Centerville schools for the support you give to veterans and their families. We can't emphasize that enough. For those of you who don't know, here in Centerville, Ohio, we do have a post, Veterans Foreign Wars Post 9550. We have a post, but we don't have a canteen, a building. So what we do have is an organization that's been around for 40 years, supporting veterans, their families, assisting the community, and promoting civic engagement and patriotism. That's our mission. One of the things we do that, and the primary reason for being here tonight, is to let the board know that every year we have a Voice of Democracy and Patriots Pen Writing Awards. These are sponsored by the Veterans of Foreign Wars nationally. They are scholarship opportunities for middle schoolers in the Patriots Pen and Voice of Democracy for the high schoolers, which is an oral competition. Basically, it is a way to promote civic engagement, patriotism, and build verbal and written skills and development thereof. We ask open-ended questions like, what does freedom mean to you? How can we make America a better place? How do we honor our Constitution and our veterans? With those big, broad opening questions, we have a competition, and every year we award scholarship monies. This last year we awarded $1,500 to a variety of students. The competition's in the fall, and we'll be back in the fall to let you know all about it. But I just want to let you know, again, say thank you and make everyone aware of it because it comes quicker than you think. Lastly, about the Veterans of Foreign Wars, I'm not sure if you all know this. It was founded in 1899 on East Main Street in Columbus, Ohio. It is in its 125th year. It is the oldest veterans organization in our country. Also, our national convention will be at Columbus, Ohio in this August. We get the support of the schools via those opportunities for those scholarships, but also by having the high school lets us do our flag, unserviceable flag collection in front of the high school, and we truly appreciate that. That's really all I have for you all. We'll see you again in the fall. And lastly, are there any veterans in the room? If they're not, well, welcome home. And if you consider joining the VFW, that'd be a great thing, because no one does more for veterans than the Veterans of Foreign Wars. But for everyone else, if you know of a veteran, especially the younger guys and gals who've been doing a variety of activities over the last 30 years, please encourage them to visit us and also to help us in our mission to support that civic engagement. Pursuant to your questions, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Hughes, I don't say like it. Thank you for your service and for all the veteran services. Thank you. Kendall Cook. time. Sorry. I'm used to you doing it.
I'm Kendall Cook. I'm the director of the Voyager program. Thank you, board and Superintendent Wesney, for reading my letter that was sent this afternoon. I very much appreciate your time and consideration for our concerns. I've been a part of Voyager for 8 years now, and I'm very, very proud of this program. I'm proud of the work that we've done. I'm proud of our instructors that are here and those who are not. We have a really great group of families that we support Monday through Friday, and even through the summer when we're working with them to get everybody set up and make sure that they have the proper care that they need, and to work with them the best that we can. I wanted to speak tonight really to represent Voyager, all of Voyager. That's our families, that's our staff, that's Jenny and myself, that's anybody that supports us and works with us in the school buildings and is there for the day in and the day out, and what that means to us. I feel it's partly my responsibility as the director to show my support not only for our staff and families, but also to the district. We've been a part of this district for a very long time, and on a personal note, so have I. I grew up in Centerville. I went all through Centerville schools. I love this district. I love being a part of this district. I don't actually live in this district anymore, so nobody be offended by that. But my parents do, and I spend a lot of time here, and this is my home. We do still have a lot of unanswered questions. Mr. Wesney answered a handful of those when he spoke, which I appreciate. But we still have a lot of unanswered questions. Even as this meeting has gone on, I'm getting messages from our staff asking questions of, how do you have answers to this? Do you have answers to that? And I really am concerned about our families and our staff that are going into this with a lot of unanswered questions. And a question that I have for you guys is, would you sign something or agree to something without being able to read the agreement? It's not been shared with us, so we have concerns moving forward by not knowing those answers. And we want our staff to go with us, and we want to uphold the integrity and quality of this program that we have worked so hard to achieve. I want to thank all of our families that have stepped up and supported us in calls, texts, emails, social media, all of those. We very much appreciate you guys. And I'm just here to request if we could extend that timeline just a little bit. We're not opposed to the conversation. We're not opposed to the information that you're working and agreeing with. We're really just looking for more information to give us plenty of time to responsibly cross our T's and dot our I's, excuse me, a little nervous. But we want to make sure that this transition is done thoroughly and completely in the way that it needs to be to maintain the integrity of our program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ginger Rogers.
Hi, my name's Ginger Rogers. I'm just here as a Voyager parent. I just wanted to, support everything Kendall just said. And I have concerns as well about that. We're a military family, so we've only been here about 2.5 years. And I've always been impressed with the district in general, like the quality of the staff just across the board. And Voyager is a big part of that because like the staff, they're mature, they're caring, they're educators themselves, or they work in the school in other capacities. So we really like that about the program. My daughter's here. She's, formed a lot of relationships with the staff. So I'm just concerned as well as about the timeline. Just hearing about it 2 weeks ago, not really knowing how that's going to look. I also don't want teenagers replacing like the excellent staff that we have now. Because I've liked having the staff the way it is. Sorry, I'm nervous too. But so I just think it's not like a bad idea, but I would also like to see the timeline extended. It kind of felt, I've heard this from others too, it felt a little like a betrayal, like we worked really hard to get the levy passed. A big part of that was being able to keep the Voyager program, and now that we find out that, we're not keeping it in the same capacity at least. So I just wanted to come up here and offer my support for Kendall and the Voyager program.
Thank you. Mrs. Carlson?
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Mr. Wesney. I know you've probably heard my name before in some emails I've been sending. It's me. It's the one that I've been sending emails. I've also started a petition about 4 days ago, and we have so far received about 206 signatures. What I'm asking is basically what both Kendall as well as the lady that just presented before me. We're not saying, no, we're not doing this. That's not what we're saying. We're not throwing a tantrum. We're basically saying we have questions. We would like to meet with the Y, and we're not getting those responses that we're looking for. We want more details in the information that's been given to us so far. It seems to be very broad. One of the things that I'm having a lot of issues with is the language that Mr. Wesney is using, which is he's calling this a partnership. We have to be clear that this is not a partnership. A partnership means that you agree to share the benefits and the losses. When you are willing to give the program out to someone else to take complete control over that program, that's called outsourcing. So out of respect for all of the educated partners that we have here currently in the Voyager program, as well as the community residents, as well as the parent Voyagers, I think that we should, one, utilize the right terminology. Why? Because if you're saying partnership, it reads differently than when you say we're outsourcing this program. Another thing that I like to say is when we were in the process of passing the levy, I was talking to as many parents as I could. I was trying to use whatever power I had to try to pass that. In my mind, I thought, let's fund the schools and not fund prisons. And I kept saying this over and over to people that I talked to. And I really wanted that levy to pass. And it did, and I'm very happy. And one of the reasons why I did that was because we were told the Voyager would stay as is. Sure, you're not completely eliminating it, but you are outsourcing it. And I trust and love and really care about the teachers that we have, my children as well. And so I would like for you guys to really think about this vote and really give us time for us to meet with the Y and really allow us to sit at the table if we can and say, what input do we have from the parents that we can utilize as part of the contract? I think if it was a more inclusive process in that way, I would be all for it. Mr. Wesney, I would stand outside and say, yes, 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 let's partner with the Y. But until then, I have a lot of concerns, and I'm just a little hesitant, and I also feel a little betrayed about that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Danielle?
Hello, Board. Hello, Superintendent Wesney. Thank you for your time tonight. I am a Centerville resident, and I have a child that is currently part of the Voyager program and one who will be starting the Voyager program, hopefully, as he hits first grade. You mentioned that this feels rushed, but that's because it is rushed, and, you know, I hate to keep beating this dead horse, but it is so important to us all that we have time to provide input and hear more from the YMCA. As Roxy said, I would like to hear from them about what they have planned for my children and their aftercare program going forward. I think there hasn't been a lot of thought that's gone into some of the benefits or the services that could be provided. Now, I think morning care, that sounds great. That makes a lot of sense. But even things like calamity care, you know, if our school buses aren't out on the roads in the morning, how are we expected to get our kids to another school so that the YMCA can take care of them? And how is their staff going to get there? It's just a lot of little things that, I don't know. It's just, there doesn't seem like there's been too much planning, maybe a lot of talking about, but not a lot of action or like planning about this. The program, we love the program. We actually moved to Centerville School District from Miami Township because we heard Centerville schools are the best. They're fantastic. They're great. So we moved here. And we do love the schools. They are fantastic. They are great. We buy Centerville Elks gear for our extended family members who don't even live in Ohio. We actually paid a lot of money for private before and after care for our kids, and then we heard rave reviews from other families that the Voyager program was it. You have to send your kids to Voyager. And when we did, we were amazed. Specifically, the PBS Voyager ladies were just absolutely outstanding, and I can't imagine any of those women being replaced, which maybe they won't be, but we don't know that. And as we've gone on to the next school, we've been just as happy as we were at PBS. And, you know, we came here for the quality, and it just kind of seems like a kick in the bottom that, we could lose that. It's just one of the many things we love about the Centerville Elks, or the Centerville School District, and I'd hate to see it go away. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Sarah? Storm?
I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm not wearing the best shirt. So
You look great.
Thank you. Sarah Storm, I'm a resident here. I have 3 kids in the Centerville School District, well, 2 and 1 on the way. I think that was all I was supposed to say, right? Okay. So my kids one's at Stingley, one's at Tower Heights, and one's going into pre-K. We, similar to a lot of the women here, my family moved here, we're active duty specifically to go to the Centerville School District, and a Voyager was a large part of that. We also heard rave reviews. Before and after school care is critical for us. The Voyager women and people that work there are like our family, they're our community there. My middle son will go into 5th grade, and he is arguably mature enough to stay at home. That's up for debate. But we enrolled him for next year because he just loves the program so much, and it's such a foundation for him, his friends, learning the community. I really appreciate, Superintendent, all the work that you've done and the investigation that you've done. My kids are actually part of the YMCA program when we lived in Washington, D.C. and did the after program there. Different systems, I'm not going to try to compare them. But I think at the end of the day, it feels rushed because it is rushed. We learned about it on the 16th. You saw a lot of phones out. That's because that's the first time we've seen that information. Like you, I think once you lay out all the facts on the table, we're happy to agree to it, but we just haven't seen it. I know that there's a lot on the table, but I think with a contract that big, I think they'll wait 30 days for an answer. So just please keep that in mind. We just want to see the material, and we want to make sure that our community, the Voyager staff and all the women that support us are taken care of. And I just don't feel confident that they will be. And that's not to say anything for you, sir. Until I see it with my own eyes and feel that they're comfortable with the solution, and I'm not going to be. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, legislative administrative reports. Legislative reports.
That's me. All right. Good evening. Okay. The General Assembly resumed its sessions today after being on break for the last couple of weeks. Certainly the most critical piece of legislation that is before the legislature at this point is the substitute House Bill 96, which is the state biennial budget. And Ms. Sauber is going to talk a lot more about that today and how it will impact our district. It did pass out of the House on April 9th and now is in the hands of the Senate. Probably the most important piece of information I'd like to give you is that public testimony is going to be heard by the Senate Education Committee. It's currently planned for May 7th and May 14th. If you are interested or willing to provide testimony, looking at our student reps too, either written or in person, I have information, some templates, and some recommendations for how to do so. I'm happy to help you. Feel free to reach out. Simultaneously, the General Assembly continues to look at property tax reform. I did list several of the bills that are out there floating around right now. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but these are the leading pieces of legislation right now. What's interesting is that in talking to some of the folks over at the OSBA, the Ohio School Boards Association, they've asked for the legislature to kind of look at these as a cumulative effect and provide documentation about that, and there's been a very clear no, that they weren't willing to do that for various reasons, which is a little curious to me. So I'm not sure how these are going to play out, but there's something to keep an eye on. A couple of other pieces of legislation that are education related in the General Assembly right now. One that's getting a lot of airtime is Senate Bill 158. You may remember last year, Senate Bill 250 came out, and that was where districts had to develop a policy regarding cell phone use by students during the school day that was to limit it during instructional time. They are now taking that one step further with Senate Bill 158. It's going to require districts to adopt a policy to entirely prohibit use of cell phones during the entire kind of bell-to-bell instructional day. It would continue to have exceptions for student learning uses if students need to monitor or address a health concern and the district deems that appropriate, or if it's included in a student's IEP or 504 plan. And it would need to be adopted by September 1st of this year. There has been sponsor and proponent testimony that was heard this month. There is a hearing scheduled tomorrow. And then just if it gets through the legislature, Governor DeWine has already said he's in favor of this, and this is something he wants to see move forward. House Bill 205 is actually a really interesting bill. It's called the Future Educators Support Act. Fortunately, it's been presented by Democratic legislators, so it's not really getting any traction at all. We've heard comments about the workforce of teachers and where that is at the moment. And this is a bill that is designed to try to help with that. It has kind of multiple prongs, but one is that it would permit districts to pay student teachers and offer them health benefits. And it kind of lays out a few different ways that can happen. So it could be through the district. It could be that the student's university or place of higher learning can contribute to that. They can also pause tuition while the student is doing student teaching. It would also create a workforce survey annually for districts, identifies teachers as an in-demand job. It was introduced earlier this month, and it was referred to committee, and it is sitting without any scheduled hearings. So if you are interested in something like that moving forward, that is an area where you can write to legislators and ask them to schedule hearings for that bill. And that's one of those things where if legislators hear from the community, they may be more inclined to schedule a hearing. Some follow-ups on other bills we've talked about. House Bill 153 and Senate Bill 107 are the bills that would require state and district school board members, candidates to be nominated by primary election and appear on the ballot with a party designation. House Bill 153 has its first hearing in House Committee tomorrow. Senate Bill 107 really hasn't had any movement since its initial hearings back in February, so we'll see where they go. And then House Bill 155 and Senate Bill 113 are the two that prohibit DEI in public schools. And they're very lengthy. We presented them last month. Senate Bill 113 has had sponsor and proponent hearings, but nothing is further scheduled, and House Bill 155 has not had any hearings at this time, so that is where those sit. And there's lots more going on in the legislature right now, but we will let those be the main points. I will say, excuse me, that we do have, for the third month in a row, our table in the back. We are trying to get to 1,000 legislator contacts from the district by the end of April, so by Wednesday. So there are labels, envelopes, some information for you, and paper if you would like to reach out to your legislators. That's all that I have.
Thanks. I'm going to flip and just follow up on this. So why don't you do your business? Yeah, and then we'll do the board that's after that. Okay? Just flip. What's that? I know, but this sort of is a good flow in.
Good evening. Yes, Dr. Graff, thank you for teeing up the budget conversation. I wanted to talk a little bit about substitute House Bill 96. One of the main provisions of this budget is the legislature's desire to put a cap on the amount of cash that we're allowed to carry over from one year to the next. In the legislature, there's some consensus or some feeling that school districts in Ohio have basically too much money in their savings account. I think the thing that's important to understand, every district has their own story, and those cash balances are built up purposefully for various reasons. For example, many districts don't have a permanent improvement fund like we do, so they're paying for all of their capital improvements out of their general fund. They may be saving for a boiler replacement that might take them 3 or 4 years to build up their cash reserves enough so that they can actually go out and do that, or to purchase buses, or you name it, what that capital improvement might be. Another reason that we do that is because, remember, that typical levy cycle that we talk about all the time is when a levy is passed, our revenue jumps up, but then it stays really flat, especially for us when we're on a guarantee. We don't see a lot of additional revenue, a little bit of inside millage, for when we have a reappraisal, but that only happens every 3 years. Our revenue does not increase to keep up with inflation. So we have to build that cash carryover balance in order for us to stretch our levy cycle out and to not exhaust the voters with requests. So in our case, that was very strategic in terms of wanting to build that cash reserve. We showed the slide over and over, and I didn't include it tonight in this presentation, but that historical slide of carryover balances, those percentages, we were down in the 20s, 25%. We were the lowest, or we brought the average down for Montgomery County. We brought the average down for the state. Both of those averages were much higher than what ours were. But again, the passage of the issue that we had back on the ballot in November what is designed to build the cash balance above 30%, which is what the legislature is saying that we can't be above in order to extend that levy cycle. One of the pieces that I believe to be very true, and I've talked with other treasurers, and they're nodding their heads and saying yes, absolutely, is that currently our cash balances across Ohio are elevated because of all of the pandemic relief funding that we've had. So we offset a lot of our operations. We bought countless curriculum materials. We bought computers. We paid for staff. Many of our staff members to reduce class sizes or to put supports into the classroom. We had math supports and those types of things. For every district across Ohio, all of those things are coming back to the general fund this year. Okay, so that money had to be spent by September. So that naturally will just draw cash balances down by having to they're either going to make the decision to reduce those services, or the general fund is going to pick those services up. And so I believe that is one of the reasons that balances are higher. And then the other piece that we treasurers are concerned about is jeopardizing our credit rating. We have a great credit rating, but that is influenced by that financial stability. And to even be considered for a AAA rating from Moody's, you have to have 30%, and they want to see it above 30%. And so I anticipate that credit ratings could drop in the future because of this if it were to go through. A second piece to House Bill 96 is they want to reduce the 5-year forecast requirement to 3 years. I don't understand that. I really don't. For the life of me, I can't imagine why you would want less information. It doesn't allow for any kind of long-range financial planning. What I can promise you is that we as a district, we will continue to do long-range financial planning. We look at a 10-year plan. We look at a 5-year forecast, but that is based on the 10-year plan that we put together. I just take the data and just dump it into the requirement that you have to pass every November and May for me to submit to the state. But just, again, rest assured, we will continue to look at long-range financial planning, because in order to effectively calculate for levies, to talk about contract negotiations with employees, and then strategic initiatives, those are all big things that you can't be short-sighted with. You have to think long-term with that. Then the last thing that I wanted to mention from the budget bill that's disturbing, and again, I know that we operate on a guarantee. We're currently on a guarantee, but if we ever have any hope of getting off of the guarantee, they have to continue the phase-in of the Fair School Funding Plan. They have to continue raising the cost inputs. They're not doing any of that. So the phase-in, it's basically frozen where it's currently at in fiscal year 25. So I don't anticipate that at that rate we'll ever get off the guarantee and ever have any additional funding that will flow to Centerville or show any kind of an increase. And so that's really disappointing for public education just in general, but especially for us to try to get us ever off of the guarantee. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is a few of the numbers that go along with this. So before the 30% cap, you can see, and a few of these numbers are a little bit different than the November forecast. They're numbers that you'll see coming up here in about a month when we take a look at the May version of the 5-year forecast. But we're anticipating our balance to get up to about 39% in 2027. And again, that's strategic. The levy that was just passed in November will not be fully phased in until fiscal year 26. So this fiscal year, currently in 25, we're seeing half of that collection this spring. And then next fiscal year, we'll see a full year moving forward. And so again, that cash balance builds, and then eventually the expenses catch up and we start to deficit spend, and that cash balance allows us to stretch the levy ask in the future. That bottom table there kind of shows where we're at with those percentages. And so in fiscal year 25, at 31%, we would be over that limit, meaning that the state will require the Budget Commission to come in and reduce our tax rates to get us down below or at or below 30%. And so, then the 36% the year after is even higher. And so again, if we don't do something with the funds that we have, and we're talking strategically about what can we do with the funds that we have, what I'm afraid of is it's going to encourage districts to just go out and spend money just to spend it, because we've worked hard to be in a place to have longer term financial security. And so districts are talking about transferring more money to the permanent improvement or setting up severance funds. It's just not a transparent way of doing it. It's also only a one-time tax credit. So as soon as you get below that 30%, tax rates go right back up. And so homeowners are going to be as confused as ever because they're never going to know what their tax bill is going to be from one point to the next. So myself, Mr. Wesney, and Dr. Rohr, we attended a meeting today at the county to discuss this. The legislators were there from our area. They represent different school districts in the area. I think the dialogue was good. I think that even though it's in House Bill 96, I think that the legislators that are there have a lot of questions about it and aren't very supportive of it. And so I was reassured by that. So we'll see what the Senate does. But it's really a waiting game at this point to wait and see what happens here in the next round. So I don't know, Mr. Wesney or Dr. Rohr, if you have things you want to add to that.
I was going to say, so there was this legislative briefing today at the Educational Service Center, the ESC. The representatives there were Plummer, Andrea White, Mr. Creed, Mr. Blackshear, and Mr. Young, that basically talked about this and listened to the school board members, the treasurers, the superintendents. It was rather interesting. I think the ESC did a phenomenal job, and these numbers that you're seeing up here now were presented by them. And they looked at all different districts, the quote wealthy district, the poor districts, and where they were and the amount that they're going to have to lose. The problem with our district, as well as a couple of others and some that are on the ballot in next week, is that if they pass a levy, as we know, within 2 years, that money all comes in, and you're going to shoot up way up above that 30% if it stays that way. And then basically the state is going to take it all back, give it back theoretically to the voters, or, as Laura said, we're going to have to spend the money so we don't lose the money. Once they get it all back, some of them have dropped. There are some districts that drop to zero where they get nothing. They won't have any money left. And then next year, if they're paying, at that 32%, all of a sudden they're going to drop down to zero, and then they're going to go way up. So what you're saying is right. I mean, you may have 1 year where you get a reduction of your taxes of $700, and the next year, all of a sudden, you're going to go up $700. So this whole system is a mess. But I agree. I think we came away a little bit reassured, having presented these numbers to the legislators, that they are not in for it. They were asked, why did you vote yes if you knew this was a problem? And their answer was, well, we had to vote yes to get the whole thing through. And again, this is only the first phase. We'll come back and we'll look at this. Most of them are looking at allowing the school districts, the local districts, to set their own highs and lows, a percentage of what they can keep, which my guess is that may be what's happening. But again, we met with 5 or 6 legislators, and there are 128 that have to vote on this. So hopefully, the hearings, when you go up there and talk, will have some impact on this. But I do think there was some little reassurance from those there that this 30% was not a great thing to do at all. But again, as we know, what comes out here sometimes comes out differently on the other side when you have to vote on it. So we definitely have to watch this because it will impact our school dramatically. I mean, basically, you know, in year 26, we're giving back, unless we spend $7 million. Then the year after that, another $7 million. Either we spend it or it's lost from the district revenue. You know, people talk about moving it over to the PI fund. If we do have a PI fund, and I pointed out at the meeting, I said, that's nice, but once it goes into a PI fund, you can't spend it on general operations. You can't spend it on the teachers, the salaries, the benefits, which is almost 90% of our budget. And once it goes into the PI, you can't say, okay, now we need it, let's move it back out of the PI. You cannot do that either. So there really aren't good solutions to this. And I think someone at the meeting said, what Laura said, is that we're just going to spend it. We're just going to spend it rather than lose it, which is not the way it should be done. So anyhow, I think everyone is working with the legislators to try to get this resolved.
One of the other pieces that has been brought up in a lot of the conversations I've been a part of is that, you know, boards of education are elected by the community to do a job, and that's to make these kinds of recommendations and decisions in the district. And so taking that funding away that the community has been supportive of over the years, it really goes against any kind of local control. And so I think that is a piece too that we need to make sure that message is heard by the people that represent us and all of the people that represent the local people in Ohio, because it really is just taking away that local control.
I did think it was really interesting. So in the meeting that I was on with the other legislative liaisons today, one of the comments made was that the County Auditors Commission has actually come out quite publicly against this cash cap, and that says a lot, right? Because they're responsible for distributing those tax dollars. That they feel like this is problematic. I think was
there was a great article in the Dayton Daily News that they interviewed several of the area auditors, and that's exactly what the message was.
I think that's really an important piece because as far as experts, they're right up there, and I take that very seriously. It was also really interesting. You mentioned the different legislators that were there today, and there was a lot of discussion from OSBA about where they think it sits, and that it really is kind of up in the air at the moment because there are some very powerful legislators who say this is going to go through no matter what, and then there are a lot of folks with questions, so it really is an important thing to look for. They did say also that they expect that the Senate's going to move very quickly with the budget bill. They're going to have their testimony, and then they have to turn around with their version pretty rapidly so that it can go into conference committee and be decided in June. So our actions are important.
Yeah, it's funny. We talk about the rapidity of which the Voyager program came out. The legislature said they got 3 weeks to look at this budget and vote on it. That's it, 3 weeks. And so that's why most of them said we just voted yes, and we'll try to work on it, you know, during the negotiation phase.
It's like 4,000 pages or something.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the legislators there, Mr. Plummer, who's high up in the committees, was very nice in the fact that he said, we're working in the right direction because it was 25. We moved it all the way up to 30. That was his response. So that's what I'm saying. There are still, I think, legislators out there that just still don't get it. So there's still a chance this may happen, which would be devastating for not just our district, but really all districts around this state. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep pushing.
I have a question. I know in the past when we were in levy talks, we would put our cash carryover balance in terms of days of operations. And I think that's helpful. At our peak at 39%, how many days of operations could you approximate it?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I can get that for one of our future sessions. We'll be talking about
that today. The recommendation was to try to get, we were talking 3 months, but 6 months worth.
Yeah, because my thought is, like, for an average household, you know, you're supposed to, you know, the financial recommendation is to keep 3 to 6 months cash on hand in case of emergency. Why should an organization of our size be any different? Because the cash carryover balance isn't just to build it up and then, bring it down while our income stays stagnant. It's also for cash flow purposes, because we only collect twice a year.
Absolutely.
And very little in between those times from the state. So if we're running at a bare minimum, we're having problem paying the bills, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, and there are districts out there that they borrow money in January just to cover payroll. I know of a Montgomery County district that used to do that as a normal practice. I would never. I'm not doing that.
No.
Interest income. And we have strategically, because of what our cash balance is planning on. I've been locking up rates out 3 and 4 years intentionally to maximize those dollars and to earn as many investment dollars on our money as what we possibly can. And we're not, am I going to have to sell those securities and take losses on those just because we, those are all the conversations that are happening, and I think the unforeseen consequences of this. It's looking almost in the past, and it's not giving any time to plan or to, like Dr. Rohr said, let the district set that cash balance, because again, every district has their own story. In May, we'll be talking about the 5-year forecast. I have no clue what to bring to you. I'm just being honest at this point in time. I'm bringing something because we have a requirement that we have to have a 5-year forecast board approved by the end of May for us to submit to ODE. We'll follow the requirement. We'll have it out there. But there are going to be lots of notes and hedges in that lots of asterisks, I guess, under the state funding portion of the assumptions that talks about the cap, that talks about where we're at. And it's very possible I may bring you another forecast in June as a follow-up, just because we won't have enough information in May for me to truly give you a forecast that I think will be representative of what might happen. So.
I think that you sent me information that I was going to tackle. I want to say you have like 57 and 58 days as far as where that tax reserve was going to carry us out, and we were not anywhere close to 3 to 6 months.
It's not egregious by any means.
Right.
And it's almost like being penalized for being fiscally responsible and planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's how it feels.
The other thing to point out is that if they do this and that money is spent or taken back, it will mean coming back for a levy a lot sooner than our hope of 5 to 6 years. To give you an idea, because they did different districts, if looking at Oakwood first, what they would take away, they would need a levy in 27. To get back where they were, it would need to be 16 mills to get back to where it was. In Northridge, the same thing would occur. They would need 43 mills to get back. I mean, obviously, there is no way districts are going to be able to get back to where they were if this happens. And for us, it's going to mean coming back in 2 years after we just passed a levy and we assured everyone we're going to be 6 years out. It just doesn't make, and if the schools end up spending the money, it's not like they're going to get any money back on their taxes. So it's crazy. It's just crazy. So, other than that, things are good.
Thank you.
Board rep reports. You guys have anything? All right. We'd love to hear some good news.
Good evening, everyone. Over the month of April, the board reps have been up to a couple things. First off, not the good news. Piggybacking off of what Ms. Sauber was saying, we were working on some things regarding House Bill 96, obviously an important issue. With the help of Ms. Sparks and Dr. Graff, we were able to set up a letter writing table to get student involvement increase. We just made it really easy for the students to talk to the legislators. We set out envelopes, address stickers, stamps, just really streamlining the process to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to reach out to their legislators. We explained the issue to them if they didn't know it already, and then as a disclaimer, we didn't pressure them or tell them to write anything specific. We just told them to write about whatever issue or whatever opinions they had on the issue and whatever stance they personally felt right. So we were able to write nearly 100 letters working towards that 1,000 letter goal. So increasing student initiative with the letter writing segment. We might have bribed them with candy and donuts. That might have helped, but yes, that's the letter writing initiative that we were up to, and Sam's going to continue on about that and how we're inspiring other districts to do the same.
Hi, everybody. We had a roundtable meeting this past Saturday on the 19th. And again, we discussed House Bill 96 and the serious implications we know it will have on public education. We've talked about the importance of mobilizing students to take action, particularly encouraging them to reach out directly to the governor. And in that, we at Centerville introduced our other district friends to this letter initiative. So hopefully we're able to start up other letter initiatives in other school districts.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Mihir, and I'll be talking about the Montgomery County Student Advisory Delegation meeting we had this past Friday. So this meeting began as a surprise. It happens that Congressman Turner was in town, and I didn't know. Maybe the people at ESE did know, but Congressman Turner showed up. And we got a chance to ask him questions and talk to him. The reason that Congressman Turner came was because of NATO, and NATO will be coming to Dayton over the Memorial Day weekend because of so quick history. I'm not going to give you a boring history lesson. I'll be brief. But the Dayton Peace Accords essentially nurtured peace in Bosnia. It was when Yugoslavia broke up into multiple places, and it was really bad, with a lot of genocide, a lot of just horrible things happening. And this was one of the kind type of situations where Bill Clinton just took all the leaders and put them in Dayton, Ohio, this just random little place with complete isolation. And not overnight, but they came up with a very good solution, a peace treaty in a relatively lower amount of time. And Congressman Turner, celebrating his 30th year of continuing, suggested to NATO that they would come over to Dayton after 30 years to celebrate it. So over the Memorial Day weekend, or even before that actually, all of downtown Dayton, or a majority of it, will essentially become this NATO town where you don't have any cars, just people walk around. But yeah, that was kind of the reason why he was there, and we got to talk to him. We didn't talk to him about very specific issues, but more in the general term, we had the chance to converse with him. 5 students from the delegation will also be going to a conversation or a panel this Friday. There will be attendance from local leaders, legislators, and hopefully the governor, and people who were involved in the original treaty, and we'll be able to ask them a few questions, and that. And then next, we had a chance to work with Crayons to Classrooms, which is an organization which provides services or helps schools with 60% of their students participating in the National School Lunch Program. What we got to do for them was volunteer. We got to learn a little bit about them, and we made journals from dot matrix paper. I didn't know what that was at all, but now I do. But yeah, I think that was very interesting. I didn't know why I found that so interesting, but it was really fun actually. We got to tear up all these papers, and then we made these journals. I stapled a lot. It was fun, but after that we made these bags for kids who if their teeth falls out, you can put it in the bag so they can find it again. But what Crayons to Classroom has is they have these stores where teachers can come in and shop. Well, you're not actually paying, but you can just get whatever you want for your students. So we did that. That was quite fun. And then the last and the third important thing that I'll be talking about is we talked about the responsible use of artificial intelligence. We talked about how the use of AI is important, how it's rapidly developing and evolving, and it's important that we learn how to use it both in the classroom and outside in a responsible manner. Some examples that we really got to see was self-grading, studying, researching on your own, ensuring proper grammar on things that are professionally sent, or making use of AI when it is permissible to do so, and making sure you use it responsibly. And some examples of this were some person actually sent a picture of themselves to the artificial intelligence and asked it to create like a color guide for them, like what colors look good on me or what things suit me. And another example is one person didn't know what to make, so he put in a bunch of ingredients into AI and say, what can I make with this? Those are just some examples. But another use of AI that's extremely important that we actually did over there was it's important for students as a whole to be able to visualize their future, just to be able to recognize that the future that they will have regardless of what age they are in. So we asked artificial intelligence with like a Mad Libs with like descriptions to see what the future or make a portrait of what a future self of you would look like, doing something that you want to do. But AI can be extremely biased, and it's important to stay alert. Some examples that we discussed was, first, it can have hallucinations. There you go. It can have hallucinations. Basically means that it doesn't have enough information, so it just makes things up. An example was this: was a lawyer used artificial intelligence for case law references, and those cases didn't exist. That's not good. Not good at all. But then the second
formed by the politicians that we have in this state?
Wait, sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay, my bad. The second example that we had was this: Amazon used AI to hire candidates early on, and because this was trained on like resumes from like predominantly male engineers, they started like downgrading like female applicants and like female quality, which is also very bad. So they had to take that down. And then there was this UK system during COVID-19 that graded students, but then it disproportionately like downgraded students from like a worse off district because they would just assume that they would have worse grades. But that was basically the majority of what we talked about. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I love your enthusiasm.
Sam, can you stay up there for a minute, though? Near me here, Thais, you guys can sit down. Thank you. So, we have extremely hardworking Board of Education representatives, not only in this room, but in the classroom and on the field. And I hope I don't cry, because I'm really super proud of you. About 3 weeks ago, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Sam signed her intent to continue her track career at the Naval Academy. So we're just really, that's huge. And we're so proud of you. And you've done such a good job for us. So I just want to take a moment to recognize you. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all. Next on the agenda, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code.
Board policies.
Board, I'm sorry.
So-
God, I forgot to get that.
Well, first of all, I'm going to start moving my agenda items up, so I'm following the students from now on. And I'm going to follow up with the AI conversation, so thanks for starting that for me. So you'll remember from the work session, there are 3 policies that we went back and reviewed. These are actually policies that we updated back in February. This is really the second reading for those policies. We wanted to add some additional AI language. That was for our student conduct policy 5500. As well as our student technology acceptable use and safety policy 744003, and then for the staff technology acceptable use and safety 7540.04. And so the language is the same, so it's pretty quick. We felt like because of the tools that are talked about in use of AI, research assistance, data analysis, we felt like we needed something from a graphics representation of images and graphics generation. So you've seen that language. Had a chance to talk about that language, so that kind of confirms our second reading. Later on this evening, I've listed all the policies that I would like to get approved tonight. There's about 7 policies that we had questions on last week that I'm going to go back and get some additional clarification on, but the rest of them were fine to go, and so those are on the agenda for your approval this evening. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Next, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, I hereby move the board adjourn to executive session to consider compensation and the employment of public employees. We will return from executive session to resume the treasurer's recommendations and go forward. So those of you who want to hang around, we will be back in a little while. Thank you.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
All right, we'll resume the meeting with the treasurer's recommendations. Consider approving the March 25 financial statements, monthly general fund rolling report, monthly cash reconciliation, monthly fund activity report, then and now purchase orders approved by administration, certified by the treasurer, and supported by board resolution totaling $25,846.50.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider approving the minutes of the following Board of Education meetings: March 17th, work and regular meeting; March 31st, special meeting; April 21st, work session.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next, superintendent's recommendations. Superintendent recommends accepting resignations listed on Schedule A. Recommends the employment, change of employment status, or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule B for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. Recommends the employment, change of employment status, or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule.
No, that one.
Never mind. Do I- Okay.
Just that one.
Superintendent, doing great tonight. Superintendent recommends the employment or change of employment status for the support staff personnel listed on Schedule C for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. Recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedules D and D1 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments, and recommends the granting of leaves of absence for the personnel listed on Schedule E for the reasons on the dates given.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Superintendent recommends deployment, change of employment status, or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule B1 for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Abstain.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider approving a resolution stating that Centerville City Schools does not intend to provide career technical education to students enrolled in grades 7 and 8 for the 25-26 school year. A motion?
So moved.
Second.
Sure. And I actually went back to my notes from the work session. Likely the last time we may have to do this. There's still some pending decisions in regards to the waiver, but this gives us an opportunity to make sure that we're safe for next year. There will be some training for some of our teachers at the middle school level to be able to do some career education coursework, and we're in the process of doing that. But this would be hopefully the last time we have to do this waiver.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Next on the agenda is considering approval for the YMCA. We've decided unanimously to postpone this for 2 weeks. Gives the community opportunity to get more questions answered. Don will try to set up a meeting with the Y to have everyone come in and get some questions answered and work with them. And then 2 weeks from today sometime, we'll send out a notice. We'll have a special meeting to vote on this topic. So it will be tabled for tonight. Consider approving a resolution to authorize and direct the treasurer to place a public notice in the Dayton Daily News and on the district's website for the purpose to consider a retiree hire of a public employee no later than May 20th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Consider a resolution approving the following revised Board of Education policies that are listed on this form and will not be read tonight. If anyone would like to know what they are, please contact Mr. Wesney. A motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Any final comments regarding past or old business from the Board of Education? Seeing none, a motion for approval of adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Graff? Yes. Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you for your input.